straw that broke the camel's back, but the White House knew about that last month when the Justice Department warned the White House that Mr. Flynn or General Flynn had not been completely honest in characterizing that conversation with the Russian ambassador. And they even went further to say that as a result of that dishonesty, he was at risk for blackmailing by the Russians.
Well, that's one characterization, but the fact is that General Flynn continued in that position and was in the presidential daily briefings, was part of the leader calls as recently as yesterday, was there for the Prime Minister's visit from Canada yesterday. And as time wore on, obviously the situation had become unsustainable.
Kellyanne,
and General Flynn...
That makes no sense.
All right, joining us now with reaction from the White House, counsel to the president, Kellyanne Conway. You know, just one observation, and we've been friends for over 2 decades. I've seen you on media appearances, and just my own thoughts that if somebody was a liberal and a woman and were treated in certain circumstances the way you've been treated, I think it would be news. Do you feel in any way the media has been extremely hostile to you?
I don't like to think that way. I am counselor to the president. I get tough questions. Any of us who represent him do. He certainly does. And tough is fine, but they should be fair. And actually just saying that I made no sense or it made no sense is inaccurate and unfair in this instance because, as our press secretary, Sean Spicer, said later in the daily briefing today, Sean, our White House counsel reviewed that information and concluded that this was not a legal matter. And ultimately, it was a matter of trust. It was an erosion of trust matter. It was not a legal matter that warranted further action at that moment. And so that's all I was trying to convey. And I was answering a couple of different questions, but I do find sometimes that there are conclusions in search of evidence. And you know, if we don't answer the question the way they want it answered, they ask it again, accuse us of not being credible or not answering a question. Look, sometimes you're asking a question that's not particularly relevant, but we're patiently trying to answer it. And often enough, we are answering the question, but maybe not just the way that you wanted it answered. But I'm not a big fan of talking about sexism and exclusion and all of that.
No,
I'm here to do a job.
Identity politics.
But
I
also think things started to shift too when I was a speaker at the March for Life. I saw a real change in tone and attitude among many people that, you know, I would go and speak at the March for Life, and of course Vice President Pence did as well. And he made history doing that. But that's all right. Sean, you know what? I just want the American people to see all the action this president is taking on their behalf. I mean, just today he had a listening session, a parent-teacher conference with parents and educators from private schools, public, charter, home schools. We have a new secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. We have Linda McMahon over at SBA. She was just sworn in tonight. Steve Mnuchin last night at Treasury. The president just today, he rescinded some of these awful regulations in a really remarkable
I do think there's some truth
event.
here.
So,
you know, one of the things, there's been a remarkable speed. I call it the speed of Trump, actually.
Yes.
He's moving very quickly, and he's made a lot of accomplishments. But the media, as I said in my opening monologue tonight, they're more focused on attacking you and attacking Ivanka and Jared and Bannon and Miller and Gorka and even the 10-year-old son of the president. I want to go specifically to these leaks, though, because Time Magazine had it was a column today by Sam Frizzell. You know, this is not the first time leaks are coming from the intelligence community. Our friend Kenneth Timmerman actually wrote a piece. He wrote a book back some years ago about the Shadow Warriors. And Eli Lake, by the way, he wrote a piece today about the intelligence leaks. So my question to you is, where are these leaks coming from? Are they against the law? Is this, do you think, coming from people that are loyal to the former administration? And when does it stop because of the danger that's associated with these leaks? And is there going to be an investigation?
well, the president made that very clear, I think, in a tweet and in other comments. The press secretary made it clear today. We're very concerned about leaks, particularly as goes intelligence and security information. And it's extremely concerning. It's not for me to say where they're coming from or whether there'll be an investigation, but it's obviously taken very seriously by our commander-in-chief and our president, because he has said as much as recently as this week. And he's right, Sean. We saw this before. We're seeing it again this week. The leaks within the intelligence and security, leaks about intelligence and security, I should say, it should concern everyone. And if people are running to the media to leak and not providing that information to the proper authorities, that should concern all of us. This is not a partisan issue.
Kellyanne, that's
it's dangerous stuff. It's not a partisan issue. And I appreciate your opening questions to me as well, because all I see constantly is, whether it's any Trump administration official, it's so-and-so got grilled, so-and-so struggled, so-and-so contentious interview, see the tense exchange below. It's like, I guess that's great clickbait, but folks, let's focus on the real issues at hand, which is what the president is putting out there, these leaks.
Well, let me ask you one last question, because I know that you made an off-the-cuff comment. It was on Fox and Friends, and you talked about, and I do believe, I have friends inside of Nordstrom that told me that they believe it is political, what happened with Ivanka's line. And you said, okay, go buy Ivanka. And they're claiming that you violated the standards of conduct. I mean, is this really how trivial things are going to get? And what's your reaction to it?
I don't have a comment on the particular letter that's been sent or any type of investigation. And I've been very straightforward about that particular incident. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, Kellyanne, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And up next, we'll get more reaction to Michael Flynn's resignation, Rick Grinnell, Charlie Hurt, Nancy Soderberg. They'll join us, and then later tonight,